Once upon a time, they chased criminals across Hawaii, flew through danger, and made millions fall in love. But today, the cast that once ruled the islands looks almost unrecognizable. Some faced heartbreak, others vanished from the spotlight. Now, we look back, and what time has done will leave you speechless. Tom Selleck as Thomas Magnum. There was something about Tom Selleck's Thomas Magnum that stuck with everyone. The mustache, the Ferrari, the smile. But more than that, it was the way he carried pain behind that charm. He was every man who'd ever tried to hold his life together while pretending everything was fine. What most people didn't know was how much Selleck had already lost before he ever played Magnum. He was in his mid-30s, and Hollywood had nearly chewed him up. 6 TV pilots, all failures, and years of waiting for a call that never came. When Magnum finally arrived, he grabbed it like a lifeline. But fate played cruel games. Just as the show began, Spielberg called with Raiders of the Lost Ark. The studio wouldn't let him go. He had to choose between loyalty and dream, and that choice haunted him for decades. Success brought him everything, and yet it took almost as much. Magnum, P. I made him a household name, but the endless filming in Hawaii wore him down. He was running on fumes, mentally, physically, emotionally. He started escaping into solitude, spending nights alone at his ranch. Still, he turned that exhaustion into strength. His performances deepened. His eyes carried stories pain could only teach. He won an Emmy in 1984, a Golden Globe in 1985, and decades later, he rose again in Blue Bloods, this time as the moral core of another family. Tom Selleck played Thomas Magnum in Magnum P.I. in 1980 when he was 35 years old. Now, at 80, he continues acting, tending his California ranch and living a slower, steadier life. His net worth is estimated at $45 million, the result of a career built not on luck, but on loyalty, resilience, and grace under pressure. John Hillerman as Jonathan Quayle Higgins III. You couldn't think of Magnum P.I. without hearing that sharp British tone. Jonathan Higgins, the strict caretaker with a hidden heart. John Hillerman gave him life, and somehow he made every word sound like both a lecture and a lullaby. He was the balance, the calm to Magnum's storm. But off-screen, John's life was nothing like Higgins's. Early in his career, he was broke, drifting between stage jobs and small movie roles no one remembered. To perfect that famous accent, he locked himself in a room, replaying Laurence Olivier's voice for hours until Higgins started to replace Hillerman. And that became the problem. People stopped seeing him as anyone else. After Magnum, P.I., he tried to move on, but Hollywood refused to let him. The roles grew smaller, the calls came slower, and the silence grew louder. The fame that once lifted him now pressed down like weight on his chest. His health began to falter, heart problems worsened, and isolation crept in. And yet, the legacy he left behind never faded. His portrayal of Higgins won him a Golden Globe in 1982 and an Emmy in 1987. Even decades later, reruns of Magnum P.I. still keep his voice alive. For Hillerman, the pain of being trapped in one role became the reason millions remembered his name. John Hillerman played Jonathan Quayle Higgins III in Magnum P.I. in 1980 when he was 48 years old. He passed away on November 9, 2017, at age 84 from cardiovascular disease. His net worth was around $5 million, modest, but earned with the kind of devotion that left his mark not just on a show, but on everyone who ever watched it. Roger E. Mosley as Theodore T.C. Calvin. Roger E. Mosley made T.C. Calvin unforgettable, the loyal pilot who kept Magnum grounded when chaos took over. He was the steady heart of the team, the man who could calm a storm with a laugh. T.C. represented dignity, humor, and quiet strength, qualities Roger himself fought hard to protect in real life. But his path to that role was carved through pain. He grew up in Watts, one of LA's toughest neighborhoods, raised without a father and surrounded by poverty. Hollywood wasn't kind to black actors in the 70s. Talent meant little when the scripts came with limits. Roger faced closed doors, typecasting, and whispered prejudice. It wore him down. He once said he turned to discipline to survive that world. Even as Magnum PI made him famous, the tension never left. He worried about his family, especially his eldest son, who struggled with addiction. The guilt haunted him. He poured his frustration into work, performing his own helicopter scenes, pushing his body and mind harder than anyone asked. Yet the success never erased the quiet ache that followed him home. Roger's career after Magnum never reached the same heights. He had standout moments. His acclaimed lead in Lead Belly, 1976, proved his brilliance. But Hollywood rarely gave him another chance to lead. In the 90s, he took smaller TV parts, teaching younger actors resilience over revenge. And just when life seemed calm, tragedy struck. A car accident in 2022 left him paralyzed. 3 days later, he was gone. Roger E. Mosley played Theodore T.C. Calvin in Magnum P.I., beginning in 1980, when he was 42 years old. He passed away on August 7, 2022, at 83, from complications after a car crash. His net worth at the time was about $1 million, earned through decades of hard work, teaching, and quiet dignity, the same qualities that made T.C. soar. Larry Manetti as Orville Rick Wright. Larry Manetti was the guy everyone wanted as a friend, the smooth-talking Rick Wright, always ready with a grin and a drink. Rick was charm and loyalty rolled into one, the hustler with a good heart. For 8 years, he made audiences believe that laughter could survive even the darkest days. Off-screen, though, Larry's life was far less carefree. After the show ended, Hollywood didn't know what to do with him. He was funny, likable, but trapped. Casting directors saw only Rick, never Larry. The phone stopped ringing, the scripts dried up, and the fame that once felt endless disappeared overnight. Financial strain followed. With bills piling up, he took any work he could find. Small parts, voice gigs, even radio hosting to keep the lights on. He kept smiling in public, but behind that grin was a man quietly carrying regret. He confessed later that the constant struggle left him mentally drained, though he refused to call it depression. Still, Larry never stopped fighting. His earlier role in Ba Ba Black Sheep, 1976 to 1978, had shown his potential, and Magnum P.I. proved his heart. Even when later projects like The Take, 1990, failed, he turned that disappointment into stories, writing a book about his years in Hawaii and laughing about the chaos that once consumed him. Larry Manetti played Orville Rick Wright in Magnum P.I. starting in 1980, when he was 33 years old. Now, in 2025, he's 78, appearing occasionally in guest roles and still hosting radio shows with his wife. His net worth is about $2 million, modest but steady, built not from fame, but from endurance, gratitude, and the stubborn joy of a man who simply never gave up. Jeff McKay as Lieutenant Mac McReynolds. You remember Mac, right? The easygoing Navy buddy who always had Magnum's back, loyal, funny, and gone too soon. Jeff McKay gave that role heart. He wasn't just a side character. He was the kind of friend everyone wished they had, the one who showed up, no matter how bad things got. But Jeff's real life wasn't as lighthearted as the man he played. Hollywood didn't know what to do with him. Always the buddy, never the star. He worked hard, but the industry worked harder to box him in. After Magnum, P.I., every audition felt like déjà vu. It wore him down. As roles got smaller, the silence got louder. He started drinking, first to unwind, then to forget. What began as a habit became a hiding place. Friends tried to help, but Jeff was proud. He told them he was fine, even when his body said otherwise. By his 50s, years of alcohol abuse had taken their toll. Still, he left pieces of brilliance behind. His lead in Tales of the Gold Monkey proved he could carry a show. His work on JAG and Battlestar Galactica showed his range, but the roles couldn't save him from himself. In 2008, liver failure claimed him. Too young, too soon. Jeff McKay played Lieutenant Mac McReynolds in Magnum P.I., starting in 1980, when he was 32 years old. He passed away on August 22, 2008, at 59, from liver failure caused by years of alcohol abuse. His net worth was around $500,000, earning through decades of persistence and roles. Marta Dubois as Michelle Hugh. Marta Dubois didn't just play Michelle Hugh, she embodied mystery and longing. Every time she appeared on screen, you could feel Magnum's world shift. Her quiet elegance, her strength, and that air of sadness turned a recurring role into something unforgettable. But Marta's real story was tougher than the characters she played. Born in Panama and chasing dreams in Hollywood, she ran into walls most never saw. The industry loved her face but not her heritage. She was too exotic for some roles, not Latina enough for others. Directors adored her talent, but limited her to the same archetype. By the mid-1990s, the constant rejection had drained her. She withdrew from the spotlight, working quietly, avoiding interviews. Friends said she struggled with bouts of depression. And yet, she never gave up. She found small joys in acting for television, in roles that let her disappear into characters instead of expectations. Her later work in Tales of the Gold Monkey and McBride proved she could command the screen when given the chance. Even as opportunities shrank, her grace never did. Then, in 2018, fate struck without warning. A sudden brain aneurysm ended her life, quick, cruel, and undeserved. Marta Dubois played Michelle Hugh in Magnum P.I., starting in 1981, when she was 29 years old. She passed away on May 8, 2018, at 65, from a brain aneurysm. Her net worth was around $100,000, built from years of steady work. Kwan Hai Lim as Lieutenant Yoshi Tanaka. You might not remember every episode of Magnum P.I., but if you saw Lieutenant Tanaka, you remembered him. That calm stare, the dry humor, the no-nonsense tone, Kwan Hai Lim gave the show its local heartbeat. Every time Tanaka appeared, Hawaii felt like home again. What made that even more impressive was that acting wasn't Kwan's first career, or even his second dream. He was a lawyer first, fighting cases by day and chasing acting by night. He didn't start performing until his 40s, when a chance encounter after surfing landed him on Hawaii 5-0. From then on, he became the face of local authority. But the late start came with struggles. Smaller roles, limited pay, and the unshakable label of local extra. Balancing two worlds nearly broke him. Between long court hours and late-night shoots, his health began to suffer. The tension of holding two lives never eased. His family saw less of him, and the financial strain deepened. Yet for all those hardships, Kwan Hai Lim left behind a quiet triumph. His work on Magnum, P.I., and Hawaii 5-0 gave visibility to Asian American performers at a time when few were on screen. That subtle strength became his legacy. Kwan Hai Lim played Lieutenant Yoshi Tanaka in Magnum P.I., beginning in 1981 when he was 59 years old. He passed away on December 22, 2008, at the age of 86, from a heart attack. His net worth was around $300,000, earned from decades as both an attorney and actor. Jean Bruce Scott as Lieutenant Commander Maggie Poole. Jean Bruce Scott brought warmth and steel to Magnum P.I. as Lieutenant Commander Maggie Poole, the kind of woman who could match Magnum's wit and still outrank him. She proved that strength and grace could share the same uniform. Maggie Poole was the voice of competence in a world run by chaos. Behind that confidence, though, Jean faced a reality much tougher than television. After Magnum, Hollywood kept her in a box. The military woman, the helicopter pilot, the no-nonsense officer. The roles were always similar, the scripts always familiar. Casting directors loved her professionalism but ignored her range. Each rejection cut deeper, and soon the excitement of acting turned into exhaustion. The struggle took its toll. Financial instability crept in, and the pressure to keep working pulled her away from family life. She tried to stay positive, taking smaller parts in shows like Days of Our Lives and Saint Elsewhere, but the thrill was gone. She quietly walked away. Away from the spotlight, Jean found new meaning. Her time on Airwolf, 1984 to 1986, had made her a fan favorite, but her true pride came later when she helped other voices be heard. Through her work with Native voices at the Autry, she nurtured Native American playwrights, turning her frustration into opportunity for others. It was her way of healing and giving back. Jean Bruce Scott played Lieutenant Commander Maggie Poole in Magnum, PY starting in 1982, when she was 26 years old. Now, in 2025, at 69, she lives quietly away from Hollywood, focusing on her creative projects. Her net worth is around $1 million, built not from fame, but from persistence, compassion, and the courage to step away when the spotlight stopped feeling warm. Elisha Cook Jr. as Francis Ice Pick Hofstetler. You didn't have to see much of Ice Pick to remember him. That raspy voice, those weary eyes. Elisha Cook Jr. brought a lifetime of heartbreak into every scene. On Magnum PI, he was the ghost of an older Hollywood, a man carrying secrets heavier than his words ever revealed. Elisha's life had been one long struggle for respect. In the 1940s, he was the man who always died first. The weak crook, the trembling villain, the fall guy. The Maltese Falcon made him famous, but it also trapped him forever. Hollywood decided he was small, nervous, expendable. Decades of rejection hardened him. The applause never drowned out the loneliness. Behind the scenes, the pain ran deeper. 2 marriages collapsed, and he had no children to share his quiet years with. The sets got smaller, the paychecks thinner. The man who once acted beside Bogart and Kubrick's lens now took whatever came his way. Small TV parts, the old man in the corner. That kind of slow fade wears the soul thin. He suffered from strokes, exhaustion, and the kind of solitude fame never protects you from. Still, he never stopped showing up. Even in The Killing and later in Magnum P1, he gave his characters something fragile, something human. He turned typecasting into truth, showing how pain can live in the eyes without a single word. Elisha Cook Jr. played Francis Ice Pick Hofstetler in Magnum PI, starting around 1981, when he was 78 years old. He passed away on May 18, 1995, at 91, from complications after a stroke. His net worth was about $500,000, built over 60 years of survival, heartbreak, and brilliance. Glenn Cannon as Dr. Eyebold. Dr. Eyebold wasn't the loudest presence on Magnum PI, but he was the calm in the storm. Glenn Cannon played him with quiet warmth, the man who grounded Magnum when bullets and emotions were flying. He was the voice of reason, the steady heartbeat of compassion in a show built on chaos. For Glenn, though, Hollywood was far less kind than the world he played on screen. He started strong, small parts in Alfred Hitchcock Presence and The Outer Limits. But the roles never grew. Casting directors told him he was too ordinary, and for years, that line echoed in his head. The pressure of constant rejection forced him to rethink everything. Instead of chasing fame, he started searching for meaning. When his marriage fell apart, he made a quiet decision: to walk away from the noise. He left Los Angeles, moved to Hawaii, and found peace in teaching. The same man who once played doctors and lawyers began mentoring students at the University of Hawaii, helping them find the confidence he once lost. Glenn Cannon played Dr. Eyebold in Magnum PI, beginning in 1981, when he was 49 years old. He passed away on April 20th, 2013, at 80. His net worth was about $200,000, modest but meaningful, built not from fame, but from a lifetime spent giving others the courage to keep creating. Eugene Roche as Luther H. Gillis. Luther Gillis, that loud, stubborn, old-school detective who drove Magnum insane, was impossible not to love. Eugene Roche gave him grit, humor, and just enough chaos to make every scene crackle. Off-screen, though, Eugene's life was far from light-hearted. For decades, he was Hollywood's go-to guy. Funny, reliable, and always the supporting act. He worked constantly, but that constant grind came with its own curse. Directors praised his timing, but never trusted him with the spotlight. Each near miss left a mark. And behind that cheerful face was a father fighting exhaustion. 9 children. Endless shoots. Airports, hotels, sets, lines, and no rest. His work kept food on the table, but took him away from home more often than he wanted to admit. The stress, the long hours, and the distance from family slowly wore down his heart, literally. Still, Eugene never stopped giving everything he had. From Slaughterhouse-Five to his memorable Ajax commercials, he became a face everyone recognized but few truly knew. And yet, he never complained. He just kept showing up, scene after scene, because that's what professionals do, even when it costs them. Eugene Roche played Luther H. Gillis in Magnum P.I., beginning in 1983 when he was 55 years old. He passed away on July 28, 2004, at age 75, from a heart attack. His net worth was about $1 million, earned over a lifetime of steady, tireless work. Lance Legault as Colonel Buck Green. Colonel Buck Green was the kind of man you didn't argue with. Sharp, commanding, and carved out of granite. Lance Legault gave him that energy, that booming authority that filled the room before he even spoke. Whenever Buck appeared, you knew things were about to get serious. And that voice, low, gravelly, unforgettable, it was pure power. But Lance's life began far from that strength. He grew up in a children's home after losing his father, a kid learning early how to survive without a safety net. That loss never left him. It shaped his fire, his need to prove he belonged somewhere. Hollywood noticed the voice first, not the pain behind it. And just like that, he was cast over and over as the villain, the colonel, the hard man with no heart. Behind the cameras, Lance was a family man stretched thin. He worked endlessly, from the A-Team to Knight Rider, Airwolf, and Dallas, always traveling, always gone. The money came, but time with his wife and 4 children slipped away. The long hours, the constant pressure to perform, the loneliness of hotel rooms. They all took their toll. Lance Legault played Colonel Buck Green in Magnum P.I. starting in 1981, when he was 46 years old. He passed away on September 10, 2012, at 77, from heart failure. His net worth was about $1 million, earned from a lifetime of work defined by discipline, resilience, and a voice that could fill both a battlefield and a broken heart. Gillian Dobb as Agatha Chumley. You could never forget Agatha Chumley, that prim, proper English lady who always seemed one step behind the chaos, but still managed to steal your heart. Gillian Dobb played her with such gentle humor that even Magnum's wildest moments felt grounded. But Gillian's own journey was anything but easy. Acting came late for her, far later than most, and the world wasn't exactly waiting with open arms. She started out as a legal secretary, a prompter in small theaters, moving from London to Australia, then to Canada, and finally to Hawaii. When she finally found herself on the set of Magnum P.Y., she was already in her 50s. That late start came with its share of pain. Hollywood gave her little room to grow, labeling her as the sweet background lady. The pressure of chasing roles while living far from home left her lonely. The distance from family, the struggle to stay relevant, and the quiet sting of being overlooked all took their toll. Still, she never stopped giving warmth to every scene she touched. Whether it was Magnum, PI, or small community plays in Hawaii, Gillian poured her heart into her work. Her quiet grace made her unforgettable to those who truly paid attention. Gillian Dobb played Agatha Chumley in Magnum PI beginning in 1981 when she was 52 years old. She passed away on March 31, 2001, at the age of 71. Her net worth was about $400,000, earned from years of quiet dedication. Phyllis Davis as Cleo Mitchell. Phyllis Davis had a kind of screen presence you couldn't fake, confident, magnetic, and just a little dangerous. As Cleo Mitchell in Magnum PI, she brought elegance and mischief in equal measure, the kind of woman who could light up a room and break your heart with a smile. She was unforgettable, even in brief moments, because she made you believe her. But behind the glamour, Phyllis was quietly fighting battles of her own. Hollywood never forgave her for Beyond the Valley of the Dolls. That one bold film followed her like a shadow, branding her as something she wasn't. Casting directors saw her beauty, but missed her depth. She became the go-to for the pretty side character. Her personal life mirrored the same ache. A painful breakup, the loneliness of aging in an industry obsessed with youth, and the fading call of fame left her disillusioned. She retreated from Hollywood, choosing instead a quieter life in Las Vegas. There, she surrounded herself with her dogs and a handful of loyal friends, the kind who didn't care about cameras or scripts. Still, her run as Beatrice Travis on Vega made her a television icon, admired for her wit and heart. She gave viewers a woman who was both beautiful and capable, long before that became common on TV. Even when her health began to fail, her humor never did. Phyllis Davis played Cleo Mitchell in Magnum PI starting in 1985, when she was 45 years old. She passed away on September 27, 2013, at 73, after a battle with cancer. Her net worth was around $2 million, built from a career of determination, grace, and a spirit that refused to fade, even when the spotlight did. Kathleen Lloyd as Carol Baldwin. Carol Baldwin was strength in a suit, the quiet force in a world full of chaos, a woman who could stand toe-to-toe with Magnum. Kathleen Lloyd played her with precision, calm, intelligent, and always one step ahead of the men who underestimated her. But behind that poised performance was a woman who knew too well how fragile success could be. Kathleen entered Hollywood at a time when actresses were either starlets or sidekicks, never equals. She had the talent, the training, and the drive, but the roles rarely matched her depth. After her breakout in The Missouri Breaks, 1976, acting opposite Marlon Brando and Jack Nicholson, she seemed destined for greatness. Then came silence. The big offers stopped, the phones went quiet. The years that followed tested her resolve. Being typecast as the supporting woman left her restless. She worked constantly. Guest roles, courtroom dramas, nurses, prosecutors, but it all felt temporary. The pressure built quietly, not in headlines, but in the small cracks of daily life. The auditions that ended with polite smiles, the scripts that never called back. By the mid-1990s, she'd had enough. Hollywood had taken her best years without ever giving her the story she deserved. So she walked away. She began living life on her own terms, away from cameras, away from noise. Kathleen Lloyd played Assistant District Attorney Carol Baldwin in Magnum PI beginning in 1982 when she was 34 years old. Now, in 2025, at 77, she lives privately, far from the industry that once claimed her time but never her peace. Her net worth is around $1 million, earned through decades of honest work, and the kind of grace that never needed applause to be remembered. Time changes everything, but some memories never fade. Which cast member's story touched you the most? Share your thoughts below, and make sure to like and subscribe for more Hollywood time capsules. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.